There's an absolutely massive sale happening on the eShop right now, and I don't think enough people are talking about it. As not only do we have some of Nintendo's biggest titles on sale, there's also a ton of incredible indie games with huge percentages off as well. And seeing as the eShop is, well, you know, a complete mess, today I'm going to take you through some of my top picks. And buckle up, we're going to be going through a lot of games pretty quickly. First up, we have No Man's Sky, which is currently 60% off. As some of you may know, No Man's Sky is one of my favorite games of all time. And the really wild part is, it's just getting better. Now, No Man's Sky is an incredible game all about exploring space, allowing you to land on every planet that you see, each of which is absolutely teeming with life. And the best part about being an explorer is if you find a brand new animal, you get to name it. But if you thought No Man's Sky was big before, it's just gotten even bigger. As on top of the endless space exploration, the farming and the base building is a ton of new features coming right up. As the most recent update now includes everything to do with the water. So you can fish, you can cook, you can send messages in bottles, and you can even dive, adding just a little bit more fun to each of the planets that you land on. And not only is No Man's Sky a fantastic game, it's also a fantastic port. And if you're looking a little bit overwhelmed by everything that you can do in No Man's Sky, or the type of game that it is, I just want you to know there's a ton of different settings to fully tailor your experience, including basically turning off damage so you can never get hurt or die, so it's definitely worth checking out. Next up, we have Wylde Flowers, which is currently 25% off. This again is one of my favorite games of all time, but the reason that it's on sale right now is that it's just received its final update. Wylde Flowers is a farming sim truly unlike anything I've played before, as this has a much larger focus on story and much less of a focus on farming. As in this, you play as Tara, who has recently been made unemployed and dumped by her fiance, and she decides to move to a brand new island to help her sick grandmother run her farm. And although life on the farm seems mundane at first, it's not long before Tara comes across a cult of witches and soon finds out she's also a witch too. Now, the main story of this easily took me 60 hours to complete, with the story just going from strength to strength as I played it. But thanks to the never-ending number of updates, there's now a ton of different things for you to do. My favorite being the ability to breed and get magical creatures. And now you can get even more magical creatures than before with the addition of this corgi and this, I want to say elephant. I haven't played the update yet, but just look at him. The most recent update will also allow you to bring the lighthouse back to life, and you'll even be able to craft jewelry to style on Tara as well. If you've never given Wylde Flowers a go, then this is your sign. It's a fantastic price to buy it at. And honestly, I can't get over the amount of content they gave us for free. Next up is another one of my favorites for 50% off, and that is Persona 5. There's going to be a theme to this video, but again, one of my favorite games of all time. As not only does this have an incredible story, combat that was so fun to learn to master, but it's also a little bit of a Tokyo life sim. And although by day he's just a normal schoolboy who spends his time making friends and studying hard to pass his exams, by night he is a phantom thief. And it's his job to enter corrupted people's minds to try and change their heart, which involves making your way through large dungeon-like areas in search of the boss. And the thing I really fell in love with about Persona is the way you control every aspect of the game. As not only are you in charge of the battling, with you trying to level up each of the characters and making sure they're given the best gear, you're also in charge of everything outside of battles as well, as how you decide to spend your free time really matters. And this can be anything from studying, getting a part-time job for some money so you can buy better gear, or taking on the Mind Palace itself and trying to progress the main story. All of that is up to you. Again, Persona 5 runs fantastically on the Switch as well. This is easily a 100+ hour game. It's insane value for money. If you're really into RPGs or really want to give it a go, this is a good reason to try it. Next up is Cult of the Lamb, where you can buy the entire bundle for 50% off. Cult of the Lamb is another game that's had a ton of updates over the last year, and although it was a little bit rough on the Switch at first, it's definitely gotten better. And this is half roguelike dungeon crawler and half cult management sim. Because in order to keep your cult members happy, you'll need to make sure that they're well fed and willing to listen to your every command. And this will involve you venturing out into the wild to take on the non-believers and convert more people into new cult members to indoctrinate. Now, whilst I enjoyed the combat and it is a lot of fun to do, by far my favourite part is the cult management. You can also change the combat settings to be easier as well to make the cult management part even more of the focus. And this will see you assign each of the cult members jobs. You'll also be able to upgrade your cult as you go and build them brand new buildings, be it houses or new places to worship. The more chaotic it gets as well. And it leads to some absolutely hilarious situations. This is a wonderful way to get into roguelikes if you're interested. And again, this price is amazing. Next up, we have Roots of Pacha, which is currently 30% off. This to me is such a underrated farming sim. I've enjoyed my time with this so much. And something as simple as having no combat in it whatsoever has made it such an enjoyable experience. You see, Roots of Pacha is not like every other farming sim, because this is a prehistoric farming sim, where you start off the game with nothing more than a pointy rock. But as you begin to farm and talk to all of the fellow residents, you begin to come up with different inventions that will not only help your farming abilities, but will also help the entire camp as well. And this transforms the normal farming sim experience of converting crops into money, into something that is far bigger and far greater. You see, money isn't so important in Roots of Pacha. Instead, it's all about the inventions and changing up the entire camp. And in this, you could do everything that you know and love in a farming sim, just in a little bit of a different way. With fishing, animal care, mines with no combat but puzzles instead, and even a set of effectively bundles for you to complete as well. And this is another game that's constantly coming out with updates, so it keeps going from strength to strength. Next up is Cosmic Wheel of Sisterhood that's currently 40% off. And when they say this is a narrative experience, they truly mean it. Because my playthrough was absolutely wild. In this, you play as Fortuna, a witch exiled to a random asteroid for 1,000 years. And being only 200 years into her sentence, she decides to befriend an entity called a behemoth in search of a way out. The only issue is, this pact is actually forbidden. And this will follow the story of Fortuna as she regains her freedom, reconnects with old friends, all whilst having the entire fate of the witch society in her hands. You see, thanks to this pact, Fortuna has the ability to read someone's fate with her tarot cards, which, by the way, you get to design and make yourself. And the way in which you interpret each of these cards when you read someone's fate defines the narrative of the entire game. This has to be one of my favourite visual novels of all time. Who knew witch politics could be so much fun? And I really like the fact that you don't always know when you've made a decision that is absolutely massive. So you just have to wait and find out if anything you've done has consequences. Next up is Graveyard Keeper, which is probably the biggest bargain of the day at 75% off. This is such a criminally underrated game, and I feel like a lot of people avoid it because of its topic, but this is genuinely a lot of fun, and I feel like the tone of the game is shown well with their description, as this claims to be the most inaccurate medieval cemetery management game of all time. And this will see you gather materials, craft, and expand your graveyard to make it bigger and better and a more successful business. But not only will there be dungeons to explore, you'll also be faced with some hilariously questionable moral dilemmas as well. And I typically like to call this a slightly darker take on a cozy game, as the mechanics and gameplay loops are very similar to the cozy game franchise, but obviously this isn't quite so cozy. Then we have Gris, which is currently on sale for 80% off, and this entire game is just a fantastic experience. And I think I fell in love with this within the first 30 seconds of playing it, because Gris has no dangers, no text, and just simple controls. So its beauty comes from how the gameplay intertwines with the visuals and the music. As Gris is a story all about a girl lost in her own world after dealing with a painful loss in her life. And despite the lack of dialogue, this is a game that says and makes you feel so much. Then we have It Takes Two, which is currently 50% off. If you're looking for the best co-op experience of all time, then you found it here, as there truly is no other two-player game that will get you working together in the way this manages. In this you play as Cody and May, a couple who haven't seen eye to eye for a rather long time. But after a particularly big fight, they find themselves turned into dolls by a magic spell. And it's up to them to take on a series of incredible challenges that will have you working together in ways you've never had to in a game before to try and save their fractured relationship. And with each new level you take on, each of you have brand new abilities that will require a lot of coordination in order for you to succeed at. And the best part about this is there's a couple of different ways you can play together. So you can either play the normal couch co-op mode, or you can play online with each other with just one copy of the game, which I think is really cool. If you're looking for a co-op game, this is your #1 pick. Then we have a couple of AAA games to take on. First up, we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is currently 30% off. I don't really have to say much about Mario Kart. If you've somehow gone this long in the Switch's lifespan without ever playing it, this is your sign to give it a go. I adore this game with my whole heart, and I honestly can't believe they haven't brought out any other Mario Kart games. We also have Splatoon 3, which is currently 33% off. And whilst I didn't love this quite as much as I love Splatoon 2, if you're gonna buy a Splatoon game, it needs to be Splatoon 3, as this is the only one with some sort of support happening for it at the moment. This also might be a great time to pick it up, as there is a absolutely massive Splatfest happening this weekend. So if you want to get involved, this is your time. And then we have Switch Sports, which is currently 30% off. I'm normally a bit iffy about recommending Switch Sports, but for just under £22, and considering there's a brand new mode brought out for free, which is the basketball mode, this might be a good time to pick it up if you're thinking about it. This does make a good and fun game to play at Christmas though. I've had a lot of fun doing that with it. I just don't pick it up enough to justify saying it's 100% worth it. Another great game to play with friends and family is the 51 Worldwide Games game. It's currently 30% off on the eShop, and this has what it says on the tin, 51 different games that you can play either by yourself or together on the same device or different devices with family and friends. If you're not someone who owns a ton of board games but would like the opportunity to play board games and get the rules explained to you, then this is a great way to go. The game itself won't actually let you break any rules either, so this is actually a great way to learn to play a lot of the board games as well. This is another go-to for Christmas time for my family, as even though some of my family aren't really gamers, they do know the rules and how to play a lot of these board games, so it's a really good bonding moment. We also have two more great party games. We have Overcooked, which is 60% off right now, and Moving Out, which is 50% off. Both of these games have similar vibes, and those vibes are absolute chaos. And the more players you have, the more chaos it's gonna be. Overcooked involves you working in a restaurant, and basically all you have to do is serve as many meals as possible in the time limit given to you. The only issue is, each level will do its best to make this as difficult for you as possible, quite often separating all the players, making them throw ingredients between each other to make a dish, and so many more obstacles. Moving Out has a similar vibe with chaotic co-opness, but in this it's your job to try and move furniture from the house into the van. Now the furniture will quite often need more than one person to hold it in order for it to move, and you guessed it, the levels don't exactly make it easy for you to navigate your way to the van. These both make incredible party games and are great go-tos when you have people around your house. Fae Farm is currently 30% off, and whilst it's skeptical as to whether this is worth full price, for 30% off I feel like I'm pretty comfortable saying this is a good price for it. Now this includes both the base game and all of the DLCs that have come out. And although the story is most definitely lacking, I do really enjoy the overarching game loop and also all of the mechanics. So if you're someone who enjoys more of the motions of a farming sim and less of the relationship side of stuff, then I definitely think you're going to have fun with this. The final game on today's list is the entire Monster Hunter franchise. It seems like every single one of the games is currently on sale at the moment, and seeing as a brand new Monster Hunter game is coming out very soon, this may be the perfect time to take it on. This may be the perfect time to finally sit down and learn how to play a game you've been thinking about playing for a very long time, or at least that's how I feel about Monster Hunter. So if you're like me, it might be time to bite the bullet so you can thoroughly enjoy the brand new one with everyone else. That's it for my top pick of sale games, but if you want to hear my opinion about the brand new Zelda game that I had the chance to play, click this video here.